You'll often see throughout NBA discourse, whether it be through Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, and the like, what does it really mean to be an underrated basketball player? Is it based on the player's skills and abilities relative to their current contract? Is it their value and impact on winning despite maybe not putting up the flashiest numbers? Or maybe it's a little more simple than that. It's because not enough people are talking about this guy and what he's been doing in taking his game to the next level. We often get so caught up in talking about the superstars and faces of the league that we don't even notice how quietly certain players are having incredible seasons. And for one player in particular, this has actually been the case for a while, and that's the New York Knicks' Jalen Brunson, who is quietly having one of the best shooting seasons we have been able to witness across the league. And it's what we'll be talking about in this video. As always, if you're new to the channel and you like this type of content, it would mean a great deal to me if you subscribe to help the channel grow, and in return I'll be providing more NBA content like this. We are nearing 25,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you all enough for the support on the channel over the past year since starting it. Now, Jalen Brunson, like some players we have talked about previously, is one of these guys who throughout his basketball journey has been somewhat doubted on, at least when it came to coming into the NBA, because Brunson was actually one of the top-ranked recruits of his class coming out of high school, was ranked 19th overall out of his class in 2015, but because of his size, his lack of defense, and inability to defend bigger body guards with his small wingspan, and on offense, he struggled to show some semblance of consistency, especially playing as a point guard, and so there were questions on whether Brunson would actually be able to make it in the NBA as effectively an undersized shooting guard. And so after 3 seasons of playing college ball at Villanova, Brunson would eventually declare for the draft and would fall all the way to the second round, being selected 33rd overall by the Dallas Mavericks, ahead of some players who are already out of the NBA. And right away when entering into the league, despite joining the Mavs in a year that they drafted Luka Doncic and all of the attention and focus on him, Brunson quietly had a good rookie season for a second round pick and ended up starting 38 games for the Mavs, averaging a little over 9 points per game. For a player some people thought wouldn't even be able to crack the Mavs rotation under Rick Carlisle. And every season, Brunson continued to improve his game on offense thereafter. So much so, to the point that the Mavs knew they had a tough decision to make in offering him a big extension while also figuring out the rest of their cap sheet, knowing they would be offering Luka a rookie max extension. And long story short, but the Mavs blew it. They couldn't reach an agreement on an early extension with Brunson in the summer of 2021, and Brunson would effectively become an unrestricted free agent in 2022. And in came the Knicks, swooping up Brunson before the Mavericks could even do anything about it by offering him a 4-year, $104 million contract. Now, to be fair to the Dallas Mavericks, the Knicks did tamper in terms of working out a deal with Brunson before free agency officially began, and the Mavs really never had the ability to negotiate a deal with Brunson, and the Knicks were ultimately fined and forfeited a second-round pick for tampering. But even still, the Mavericks, given their current salary cap situation at that time, would have been hard-pressed to match the offer the Knicks gave Brunson and still be able to round out the rest of their roster. And so the tampering aside, I think it's very likely the Mavericks would have lost Brunson anyway, when they could have easily kept him by offering a significantly less amount of money that Brunson was commanding the offseason prior. But either way, the Mavericks lost Brunson, and the Knicks got the guard they wanted to put alongside Julius Randle and what they were trying to build as a team after having a disappointing season in which they failed to even make the play-in when going to the playoffs the season before that. And what's funny is I remember at that time thinking the Knicks are out of their mind offering Jalen Brunson that kind of deal. I thought Brunson was great and thought he was an underrated scorer, but a $100 million plus contract for Jalen Brunson? I thought this was another one of those Knicksy moves where they knew they weren't going to be able to bring in one of the bigger names. They were desperate in trying to stay relevant, and so they overpaid for someone like Jalen Brunson. But funny enough, I could not have been more wrong, because after seeing the Knicks and how much they improved by adding Brunson, and the Mavericks falling off a cliff by going to the Eastern Conference Finals and then all the way out of the play-in without Jalen Brunson, it was clear Brunson was worth every penny of that $104 million contract and some. I mean, you look at Brunson's annual salary relative to his production, and you could argue this man is underpaid at this point. But look, the background and the history aside of where Brunson got to where he is today, what Jalen Brunson has been able to do throughout this first quarter of the NBA season is nothing short of being unprecedented for a player who was thought to not even make it beyond his first contract in the league. Jalen Brunson, as we currently sit here today at the time of this recording, is averaging near 25 points per game, which is a career high for him, is facilitating at a more efficient rate than we have ever seen before from him, and also taking care of the ball, limiting his turnovers, and generating more offense for the Knicks as a result. But what's more shocking is just how well he's shooting the ball this season, particularly from behind the arc. We always knew Brunson was a decent three-point shooter, but it was on relatively lower volume, while the majority of his shots were coming near the rim. Last season, he shot the three ball at 41.7% on 4.7 attempts per game, which is still great, but so far this season, he's shooting threes at an insane 47% clip on over 7 attempts per game. That is off the charts level efficiency on that kind of volume. For context, Jalen Brunson is shooting the best three-point percentage of any player, shooting more than 7 attempts per game, with only 6 players across the league shooting above 40% on at least 7 attempts per game. And the only 2 players that even come close to the level of shooting efficiency that we're seeing from Brunson from deep are Steph Curry and Tyrese Halliburton. And that has really become a game changer for the Knicks, for a team that was 20th in the NBA in three-point percentage compared to where they are now at 7th across the league and 12th in overall three-point rate. Brunson is currently boasting the highest box plus minus of his career at 5.3, which is the highest on his team for qualifying players, and also the highest true shooting percentage on his team on the highest usage rate. And here's the thing, say what you will about Brunson's defense. Yeah, it's not the best, and it's never going to be great, but he's quietly having one of the best defensive seasons of his career, again, for him. But currently, with the best defensive rating of his career, the highest defensive box plus minus of his career, and a career high in steals per game. And that aside, I don't think you can underestimate the level of importance that effort plays on the defensive end for Jalen Brunson. Like, it's one thing to not be a great defensive player, but at least trying on that end of the floor, despite being limited defensively, is so critical when it comes to impacting the team's energy and morale when they see one of their best players giving it their all on defense. I'm not saying Brunson is going to go out there like an Alex Caruso or Marcus Smart level guard when it comes to giving that kind of effort on every defensive possession, but he certainly tries to create an impact on that end of the floor, which is more than can be said about some of the best offensive players in the game. And look, discussing this and putting out this video isn't to say that Jalen Brunson is some superstar or even a #1 option on a title team. He's not, and likely will never be that type of player. Brunson still has his flaws as a player, but this is more to say that Jalen Brunson, based on what we're currently seeing from him so far this season and just how his general rise as a player and continuing to get better with every passing season, in my view, more people should be talking about him and what he brings to the table when talking about some of the league's elite players on offense. And because people aren't talking about him as much, they aren't talking about him outplaying his contract, how he's become one of the league's best three-point shooters and impact players because of all of that. It's why I feel Jalen Brunson is one of the more underrated players in the league. And props to the Knicks, who historically haven't been able to get much right as a franchise, but they definitely hit a gem on this one. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.